You're working harder than ever, but something feels off. You've got the career, maybe the relationship, the achievements everyone said would make you happy. But late at night, when everything's quiet, there's this gnawing feeling that whispers, "This isn't it. This isn't the life I actually want." And here's what nobody talks about. You're not broken. You're not ungrateful. You're just chasing the wrong life. Not a bad life, just not your life. And the difference between the two? It changes everything. I used to think this feeling meant I was weak, or privileged, or just never satisfied. But after years of research, conversations with hundreds of people, and my own painful journey, I realized something that shifted everything. Most of us are living someone else's definition of success and calling it our own. Let me paint you a picture. You're 28, maybe 30, and you've done everything right. You went to college, got the degree, landed the job, you live in a nice apartment, drive a decent car, have a social media presence that looks pretty good from the outside. But Sunday nights hit different, don't they? There's this dread that creeps in. Not just about Monday morning, but about the whole trajectory. You find yourself scrolling through other people's lives, wondering if they feel as empty as you do behind all the carefully curated posts. Most of us spend our 20s and 30s climbing ladders we never chose. We take jobs that look good on paper but drain our souls. We move to cities because that's where success happens, even though we miss the quiet places that actually felt like home. We date people who check all the boxes but don't actually light us up inside. And we tell ourselves we're being practical, responsible, smart. But here's the truth nobody wants to admit. You can have everything you thought you wanted and still feel empty, because when you're living someone else's blueprint for success, even winning feels like losing. The scariest part? We get so good at convincing ourselves this is happiness that we forget what we actually wanted in the first place. We mistake being busy for being fulfilled. We mistake having impressive things for having a meaningful life. We mistake other people's envy for our own satisfaction. I see this everywhere. The lawyer who always wanted to teach. The marketing executive who dreams of opening a coffee shop. The person in the perfect relationship who feels lonelier than when they were single. The entrepreneur who built a successful business but lost themselves in the process. Here's what no one tells you about chasing the wrong life. It's not just about external stuff, it's about who you become in the process. When you're constantly trying to fit into a life that doesn't actually fit you, you start shrinking. You start silencing the parts of yourself that don't match the image. You begin to perform your own life instead of living it. You develop what I call success anxiety, this constant fear that if you slow down, if you question anything, if you admit that something isn't working, everything will fall apart. So you keep going, keep pushing, keep pretending it's all working out exactly as it should. You wake up successful but exhausted, accomplished but anxious, surrounded by people but feeling completely alone. Because the version of you that achieved all this, it's not the real you, it's the you that you thought you needed to become, to be loved, accepted, valued. And the most painful part? The people in your life, they don't even know the real you. How could they? You've been so busy being who you thought you should be that you forgot who you actually are. Your relationships become performances. Your achievements feel hollow. Your entire life starts to feel like an act. I remember talking to a friend who had what everyone considered the perfect life. Corner office, beautiful apartment, dating someone gorgeous and successful. And she said something that broke my heart. I don't even know what I like anymore. I've been pretending for so long that I've lost track of what's real. This is what happens when you optimize for the wrong metrics. When you chase salary over satisfaction, status over fulfillment, others' approval over your own peace. You can win at someone else's game and still lose yourself completely. The tragedy isn't that you failed. The tragedy is that you succeeded at becoming someone you were never meant to be. But here's where it gets interesting. The moment you start questioning whether you're chasing the wrong life, that's not a crisis, that's an awakening. See, most people think there's something wrong with them when they start feeling this way. They think they should be grateful. They think they should, just push through and make it work. They're afraid to admit that success feels empty because they're terrified of seeming ungrateful or weak. But what if that restless feeling isn't a problem to fix? What if it's intelligence trying to get your attention? What if your soul is literally trying to save you from a life that was never meant for you? I've learned that discomfort is data. That feeling of something's not right isn't something to medicate or ignore or push through. It's information. It's your inner compass trying to tell you that you've wandered off course. The real fix isn't about throwing everything away and starting over. It's about getting honest about what you actually want versus what you think you should want. And I know that sounds simple, but for most of us, it's the hardest thing we'll ever do. Because we've been conditioned to trust everyone's opinion about our life except our own. We've been taught that our parents know what's best for us, that society has figured out the formula for happiness, that successful people must be doing something right that we should copy. But what if they're all wrong? What if the life that looks perfect from the outside is actually a prison? What if the path everyone's walking leads to a destination you don't even want to reach? Here's something I've noticed. The people who seem most genuinely happy, most at peace, most alive, they're rarely the ones with the most impressive credentials. They're the ones who figured out early or figured out late but finally figured out that their opinion of their life matters more than anyone else's. They're not trying to impress anyone. They're not chasing the next milestone. They're not constantly comparing themselves to others. They're just living in alignment with who they actually are, and it shows in everything they do. Here's what I've learned after years of getting this wrong. Your real life isn't hiding in some distant future. It's not waiting for you to get braver or richer or more qualified. It's available right now in the choices you make today. But it requires something most people aren't willing to do. You have to stop optimizing for other people's approval and start optimizing for your own peace. This means saying no to opportunities that look good but feel wrong. It means disappointing people who are invested in your old version. It means choosing alignment over achievement, at least for a while. And yes, it's scary. Because when you stop chasing the life everyone expects you to want, you have to face the question, what do I actually want? But here's the thing, the answer isn't as complicated as you think. Your real life isn't some grand, dramatic transformation. It's usually quieter than that. It's in the small, daily choices that honor who you actually are instead of who you think you should be. Maybe it's taking the job that pays less, but energizes you instead of drains you waking up. Maybe it's moving to the place that feels like home instead of the place that looks impressive on your LinkedIn. Maybe it's finally having the conversations you've been avoiding or ending the relationships that require you to be someone you're not. Maybe it's admitting that you don't want kids, even though everyone expects you to. Maybe it's acknowledging that you do want kids, even though it doesn't fit your career timeline. Maybe it's recognizing that the degree you spent 4 years getting was for someone else's dream, not yours. The process isn't about burning your life down. It's about honest evaluation. It's about asking yourself, if I had to live this exact life for the next 20 years, would I be okay with that? And if the answer is no, then you have information. Start small. What's one thing in your life that you're doing primarily because you think you should, not because you want to? Maybe it's a weekly commitment that drains you. Maybe it's a friendship that feels one-sided. Maybe it's a hobby you've outgrown but keep doing because it's part of your identity. What would happen if you stopped? Not forever, just for a month. See how it feels. Notice what opens up in that space. Pay attention to whether you miss it or if you just miss the idea of it. This is how you start reclaiming your life piece by piece. Not by making dramatic changes, but by making honest ones. Now here's what's going to happen when you start making these shifts. People are going to resist. The people who knew the old version of you, who benefited from you being someone you weren't, who are threatened by your growth, they're going to try to pull you back. They'll tell you you're being selfish. They'll remind you of all the reasons why you made the choices you made. They'll make you feel guilty for wanting something different. They'll say things like, you've changed, like it's an accusation instead of exactly what you were trying to do. This is normal. This is expected. This is not a reason to stop, because here's what they don't understand. You're not changing to hurt them or reject them or prove them wrong. You're changing because staying the same was literally killing your spirit. You're changing because the alternative is a slow death of everything that makes you who you are. And the people who truly love you, they'll adjust. They might be confused at first, maybe even hurt, but they'll want you to be happy more than they want you to be convenient. The relationships that survive this transition are the ones worth keeping. But you're also going to face internal resistance. There's a part of you that's going to panic when you start living differently. It's going to tell you that you're making a mistake, that you should go back to the safe choice, that you're being irresponsible or naive. This voice isn't trying to protect you from failure. It's trying to protect you from judgment. It's trying to keep you in the cage that everyone else recognizes, even though it's slowly suffocating you. Feel the fear. Acknowledge it. Thank it for trying to keep you safe. But don't let it make your decisions, because the biggest risk isn't that you'll fail at living your real life. The biggest risk is that you'll succeed at living someone else's. And when you start making these shifts, something amazing happens. Not immediately, not without challenges, but gradually, undeniably. You stop feeling like you're dragging your life behind you. You stop waking up with that heavy feeling in your chest. You stop checking your phone every 5 minutes to avoid being alone with your thoughts. Because your thoughts become a place you actually want to be. Instead, you start feeling like yourself again. Not the shiny, performative version of yourself that you created for other people's approval, but the real one. The one with opinions and preferences and dreams that don't make sense to anyone else but feel absolutely true to you. Your relationships get deeper because you're not performing anymore. When you stop trying to be who you think people want you to be, you attract people who actually like who you are. Your work becomes more meaningful because it's an expression of who you are, not who you think you should be. Your energy returns because you're no longer fighting against your own nature every single day. I see this transformation in people all the time. There's a lightness that comes with alignment, a peace that comes with authenticity, an energy that comes with living in integrity with yourself. The lawyer who finally became a teacher lights up when she talks about her students. The marketing executive who opened the coffee shop moves with a joy that was never there in the corporate world. The person who ended the perfect relationship found love that actually fulfills them. The entrepreneur who simplified their business remembered why they started in the first place. These aren't people who had it all figured out from the beginning. These are people who got honest about what wasn't working and had the courage to change course. They're not necessarily more successful by traditional metrics, but they're undeniably more alive. The people who truly matter, they don't fall away. They love you more because you're finally being real. They respect you more because you're no longer playing small. They're inspired by your courage to choose authenticity over approval. And the ones who do fall away, they were never really there for you anyway. They were there for the version of you that was never sustainable. Losing relationships that were based on performance isn't a loss. It's a liberation. So how do you actually do this? How do you start living your real life instead of the one you think you should be living? It starts with daily honesty. Every morning, before you check your phone, before you start performing for the world, ask yourself, what do I actually want today? Not what you should want, not what would be productive or impressive, but what would feel good and true. Maybe you want to have a slow morning instead of rushing. Maybe you want to call that friend instead of networking with people you don't like. Maybe you want to work on the creative project instead of the thing that pays but bores you. Start with small acts of authenticity. Wear what you actually like, not what you think looks professional. Eat what you want for lunch, not what you think you should eat. Say no to the invitation that feels like an obligation. Notice how it feels to choose yourself instead of choosing what looks right. Notice how your body responds when you honor your preferences instead of ignoring them. Keep a journal of these small experiments. What happened when you chose authenticity over approval? What opened up when you stopped trying so hard to impress everyone? What relationships got better when you stopped performing? This isn't about being selfish or irresponsible. This is about being honest. And honesty, it turns out, is the foundation of a life worth living. So if you're sitting there right now feeling like you're chasing the wrong life, listen to that feeling. Don't talk yourself out of it. Don't minimize it. Don't wait for permission to want something different. Your real life is calling. Not next year, not when you're ready, not when it's convenient for everyone else, but right now. The only thing standing between you and that life is the courage to stop chasing what looks right and start choosing what feels true. The question isn't whether you deserve the life you actually want. You do. The question isn't whether it's possible to change course. It is. The question is, how much longer are you going to keep yourself from it? I know it's scary. I know it feels risky. I know there are people who won't understand, but here's what's riskier. Spending the next 20 years living someone else's definition of success while your soul slowly dies. You get one life, one chance to see what happens when you stop apologizing for who you are and start celebrating it. One opportunity to find out what you're actually capable of when you stop trying to be someone else. Start today. Start small. Start scared, but start. What's one thing you've been doing because you think you should, not because you want to? What's one conversation you've been avoiding? What's one dream you've been dismissing as unrealistic or selfish? Your real life is waiting for you to choose it. And when you do, when you finally stop chasing the wrong life and start building the right one, everything changes. Not just for you, but for everyone who gets to witness what happens when someone has the courage to be authentic. If this resonated with you, if you felt something shift while listening to this, hit that subscribe button because we're going to keep having these conversations about what it means to live an authentic life in a world that profits from your performance. And let me know in the comments, what's one thing you've been chasing that doesn't actually feel like you? Sometimes just naming it is the first step toward freedom. And sometimes, reading someone else's honest answer gives you permission to tell your own truth. Your real life is calling. Are you ready to answer?